Good evening, everyone. This video is going to be a trading review and a support session for June the 22nd, 2022. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to take a look at what the market has been doing recently. Just take a look at the daily chart. So as we were looking at the beginning of this today, the market was down, and it was down as sort of as a test of this bounce that we had yesterday. Ended up being, pretty much a neutral kind of a day. It ended up ever so slightly lower, maybe a tick or two lower than yesterday's close. So the world is still, concerned about inflation and the Fed actions, etc. So we're just going to be in this for a while. Chairman Powell, Fed Chairman Powell, was testifying this morning, and that caused some volatility. It wasn't crazy, but let's kind of go through my trading review. It was a positive day, but I got off to a bad start. So here's the first 3 minutes, and they were buying, and I've sworn off the first 3 minutes, even though anything that you took long in this area would have been just fine. So I fell to previous temptations, and we had broken out of S1 here, and I took the first long trade, and this is not a great trade at all. I mean, even if it went up, it's still not necessarily an advisable trade. Just a little bit past a floor pivot, and it had already kind of moved. So I took that trade and stopped out, down around here. So started out with a loss, and just worked my way back to a profit. But just think, would have been up very, very nicely, probably in the mid-teens, if I had not taken that first trade. So let's go back to review the trades that I did take after that, and took a trade. Let's see here, and let's see. Did I? And I'm going to have to go back and rewind my trading chart, because I think I added to that trade, and sometimes the arrows are a little bit hard to see. Here's the stop out. Oh, no. Oh, I remember what it was. It was, I took it, but yeah, the entry point was kind of right there, but but I think my bracket was only set at 1 point that time. So I did it, and I got out for 1 point right there. Then I changed my bracket. So that was actually a good 1 point trade. Otherwise, I probably would have had to add to it to get out of it. And then took another trade. These arrows are hard to see here, right? And that one was profitable. As you know, so it's certainly going with the trend. Took another trade here, right? Pretty much above everything, and that trade was profitable. And then I got a little bit conservative and didn't take another trade as it was going into S1. Excuse me, had to sneeze. And it's running away from here. Here's one I did have to add to. So I added, took the trade here. Probably, it's a little bit too soon, but it was, getting a really good bar and an expansion. So I added to it here and out over here. So a little questionable there, since it was going into Ultraflex. And then we're into coffee break time, and I did not take any trades. Oh, I took a trade here because it was kind of settled here above the fast zone, running away from the 3 minute close, running away from the EMA. So it took a trade there and out very quickly. Did not chase any more, but it actually pushed quite a bit. And lately they've kind of been pushing in the 650 to 655 range instead of the 55 to 7 o'clock range. So just took that one trade, here's 7 o'clock, and just kind of waiting on it, not wanting to go short. And let's see, so it's kind of trying to come out of the fast zone. It's breaking through there. So I took a trade here and out, continued to go some. And let's see, I'm must be pretty close to break even now, because I'm starting to be more conservative. Looks like it's breaking out of yesterday's close. Take a trade here, right? And that was good. Let's see. Getting kind of close to yesterday's high a little bit, so not taking any trades through there. I am a little bit cautious about trading into the all session high. Right, so don't see any more markers here, so I think I'm probably already up and looking for some trades here. Let's see, I think I might be close to just taking one more trade, which is kind of late. Yeah, so take a short trade here, right? It's kind of breaking down, and that was it. So 5 points gross for the day. So could have traded a little bit more, and after you're kind of down and you come back, many times it's kind of best to go ahead and take a small win instead of pushing it too terribly much. And I did not trade anymore for the rest of the day. So let's go back and take a look at the highlighted areas, right? And there were some, and some of them I took, and some of them I was waiting on. This is a pretty good area, right? Coming away from the 3-minute close, the EMA, in the direction of the fast zone. So that's a high probability. And let's see what the next one is. I have marked here again, right? It pulled back into the fast zone, running away from the 3-minute close, running away from the EMA, and so that's a high probability. Here's pretty much the same thing here, right? So it kind of goes up, running away from the 3-minute close, which is above the minute. Kind of doing the same thing here, but it wasn't as pronounced, right? In terms of is it going to fall back into the fast zone or not? So here's one. Now this next one is a little bit higher. But it is running away from the 3-minute close. It's above the close, right? And running away. So that is, it's away from the fast zone, but still this qualifies as long as you think the market has some legs, right? It's pretty much the same for this one. This one is a little bit closer. It was at the 3-minute close and the EMA, and having some expansions in there. So at this point I was pretty close to, I made it back to profit, and you can see the yesterday, kind of going into the previous high. So it's making new highs through here. So I have a tendency to get a little conservative there unless I'm really needing trades. Here's another one, right, it's kind of settled here, right? Here's the EMA, here's the 3-minute close, had an expansion from here, running away. That was good. And then never really broke out here. I was watching it, but never really broke out, never showed any volume, and it goes the other way. Now, I mean, so this is, running away to the downside, or running away from the EMA and the 3-minute close, but it's running into the fast zone, and I'm going to not mark those. That's up to you if you're going to take those risks. So the one that I did take was later on, was this one. Right, so now we're out of the fast zone, and we're below the volume point of control, coming away from the narrow fast zone, the 3-minute close, and the EMA, and that one works well. So just taking the high probabilities, I was trying to count. I think I had 6 or 7 or something like that, just in the highest probabilities, which would have been about probably 9 points better than my 5, and you wouldn't have had really any fights. So yeah, I'm upset. I chased that first trade and had that loss. I don't think I marked anymore. Oh, I did. Right around the 8:30 area. Right, so it's back down, and we're back to yesterday's high. Right, volume point of control, the 3 minute close, the EMA, and it didn't necessarily hit it with a lot of volume, right? But it is making consistent progress, and so the price structure was okay, but it never really. I mean, it had a high volume here, not quite a. It was an expansion. The blue thing covered the expansions. Yeah. So here's the expansion coming off of the EMA and the 3 minute close. So that one was perfectly fine. All right. So that's probably maybe eight really conservative trades. So maybe an easy 12 point kind of day on that. I wanted to go back and talk about this first trade a little bit more. Of course, we know that's not necessarily a great trade. That's nothing new, and I get a little aggressive sometimes. But what I want to point out is okay. Here's 3 minute. There's a push ever so slightly. Another push. But what I want to point out is of course we have traveled, right? Of course we have traveled. So it's in and I'll try to be vigilant about this. It's best probably instead of chasing it, just to let it do a withdrawal, right? No matter how much it is, wait for the next setup so you don't get caught in this scenario. Now, if it pulled back some and turned back again, as soon as it turned back, the trend is up, right? As soon as it turned back with the flexes, right, then that would have been a much safer trade, even though I didn't mark any blue boxes here because it really wasn't all that good. This expansion was right into yesterday's high, even though you would have gotten out. I did not mark that, but that's not maybe an ideal trade, but clearly better than trying to trade chase something that has gone up quite a bit. So I need to add that to my discipline check as we're as kind of going through. All right. So any questions on any of that? Hopefully we beat the thunderstorms. Well, if it's narrow, right? If a fast zone is narrow, here's my observations. Let's get back to where it was narrow. Right. If it's narrow, then it just doesn't have this ambiguous area, right? So it's holding, and now there's really no ambiguous area anymore. I mean, it is when it breaks out of this very narrow range, right? We still want to do it with volume, right? But breaks away from, not necessarily out, but away from a very narrow fast zone, right? With volume, it usually travels, right? Is my observation, right? And there it was kind of narrow, kind of tested it through here yet again, right? And it is right at 8 o'clock as well, right? So it rolls over with volume, and that's a safe trade. That's a safe trade no matter what. Pretty safe trade no matter what time of the day it is. If you can look in the afternoon, right? Because sometimes I have no idea if it did it. Oh, see, here it is again, right? Very narrow, right? So it's not coming down to the very narrow fast zone, right? But it stops here, right? And it's running away from. It's kind of running away from I call it a narrow fast zone, but what this really means is we're kind of around a market bias point, right? And it's running away from it, right? Yeah, so let's. This is not necessarily narrow, but it's breaking down from the fast zone. Let's. And this, it's getting angry, right? So this is not necessarily what we're talking about, but the fast zone is essentially extremely narrow here, but it's already picked a direction at this point. And now it's traveled, and let's see, now it's kind of narrow again, even though it's already kind of broken through. It's better when it's, so now it's above that narrow fast zone. It's pulled back towards the narrow, the edge of the fast zone, and it has gone up again, right? That's my observation. I would never say there's not any risk. There is less risk if it's running away from those areas. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Hopefully you don't lose power. So anyway, that'll be it. Let me stop the video, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Have a good night.